The reaction was against that and not against the 60s. Trust my judgment here.
Okay.
It really, really was. It was basically what they wanted. It was back to 3 minutes. Because, you know, all of the Clash, I thought, well, Simon maybe a little bit differently, but he was a big ska and reggae man, yeah? But, you know, the others all like 3 minute pop songs. Mick Jones particularly, you know, so, the Pistols, I mean, Rotten or Lighten, if you prefer, was different. He liked Can, he liked Beefheart, he liked Dub, etc., yeah? But Jones and Cook, and Matlock actually, it was the Faces. You know, just good time rock and roll. That's what they wanted, 3 minutes and so on. And you got to remember, these are people that, you know, a few years before would have been buying glam rock records by the likes of Sweet and T-Rex and so on, right? Yeah, the first records.
Well, that's pretty basic rock and roll.
It is. First record ever bought was a Slade record, you know. And Slade were a good band, incredibly underrated. And I'll say this, you know, Oasis fans, Oasis critics, all over here is, they ripped off the Beatles, they ripped off this, they ripped off that, they ripped off Slade more than anybody else, right?
He
you know?
said a lot of it.
They come and feel the noise, right, yeah? Slade were great. When you're kind of young and just listening to the music, you know, these are good pop records, right, yeah? So you kind of had this in the early part of the 70s, and then once glamour kind of shot its bulb by about 73, 74 time, you kind of had this couple of years where at least in terms of guitar bands, there wasn't really anything happening. It wasn't good, you know. I mean, I appreciate it more now than I did then. There was some very, very, very good soul and funk coming out from the States around that time, yeah? I didn't discover this until many years later. Reggae was absolutely peaking around that point. You know, for me, the creativity was coming from Black America. It was coming from Jamaica, and it was coming from Germany, right? Can. I say, and I might be wrong here, that's how Pink Floyd should have sounded, because Can were really out there. They were really out there. If you take Set the Controls by Floyd as a template, that's how a lot of the Can stuff sounds like to me, and it's good. It's, you know,
I think they influenced Radiohead a lot as well.
I'm sure they did. I think they probably would have influenced Joy Division as well.
Yeah.
Rotten liked them. Rotten was definitely a fan there. You know, it's they were good. There's a feel to their music that's really, you know, very, 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 very different.
The 60s, 70s, I was thinking punk backlash against hippies, actually.
Well, yeah, but I think the thing is with the hippies, yeah, what they were referring to as the hippies were the what? Look, this is the deal. How the hippie generation sold out on its ideals. How you had all these people that were kind of, you know, rebels in the 60s, and by the 70s they're mixing with royalty and things like that. Yeah, that's the type of thing they want to look. So yeah, when like, yeah, we're hippies and all this, like, yeah, he wasn't necessarily referring to people who were, you know.
Weren't they going against a sort of floaty hippie thing? Didn't they think it was really
I think it was a
really
case of everything needed to be shaken up. And do you know something, Anthony? I think there's a very good parallel now. Have a look around. Nothing's happening. I'm sorry, hipsters are just... Why? I'm sorry, you know what I mean? Why? What do they stand for? Right, yeah? I don't see any, you know, all I see is a load of guys who probably, you know, old enough to know better, you know, with check shirts, with stupid beards, they look like the members of the fucking Taliban or something, right, yeah? And an armful of tattoos, which they're going to live to regret many years later, and glasses that they don't need. What does it actually stand for? Where's the music here? Where's the scene? And what are they doing? What are they ever standing up against what's happening in parts of the UK, Spain, where we live, where we've got a nasty government here as well? Yeah, they're not. I think a new punk is needed. I don't know where it's going to come from. You know, it won't musically be the same and so on. But I can I detect that kind of complacency that was around in 70s Britain, because I'm old enough to remember it. You know.
I think the problem is we've been through lots of genres of music. We've been through pretty much any political ideology you can imagine.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be a genre of music, but it just has to be people standing up and doing something. You know, back to Rotten in '76. Yeah. Get off your ass and so on. You know, I mean, for me, it's one of the most iconic things in music. He's got that look in his eyes. It's this look of utter hate and contempt and so on, right? Yeah, but it strikes a chord because it's so powerful. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we need an 18-year-old doing that now or whatever, but we need this is the thing that gets me. I'm 50, right? I'm thinking like this, right? Yeah. Why aren't the 18, 19-year-olds thinking like this? Have their brains been washed?
No, they're being distracted, I think.
Yeah.
They've been offered all these goodies, that's what it is.
Yeah, right, okay. When you say goodies, if you're on about illicit substances, they were around then as well.
No, not necessarily. No, I'm thinking more technology. It's just...
Yeah, okay. Well, if that's the case, then let's use this technology and do something. Whether it's musical, whether it's fighting back or whatever.
Well, there is an alternative movement which I'm involved in. There's lots of independent radio.
I'm doing all the talking. You can either tell me about this now, or you can tell me about this after dinner, because I'm kind of interested. It's.
It's just this kind of thing that's sprung up on the internet over the last 10 years. And it's just lots of independent podcasts and independent radio shows, and it's trying to just show you information that mainstream doesn't touch, basically.
Yeah.
There's all kinds.
I think there's probably a good chance that I might have stumbled on some of this by accident.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I've made a few podcasts myself. It's just really a lot of it's not for profit. It takes the profit out of it. It's just people who just.
Well, if it takes the profit out, good. Does it put the fun back in? Because here's another thing. For me, it should be fun. Because obviously I've talked about punk a lot, but there's other things that I like as well. I remember being around when the Stone Roses and the Happy Mondays were on their roll and so on, and it was fun. Yeah. It was fun. The same as punk rock was fun, right? Fun is important for me. We're talking about music, It's like I say, the open mic, I can't judge what people do, etc., etc. There are certain, songs that I like by people more than others. But songs, when you just get somebody who comes down and just doesn't give a shit, just gets up there and goes bang and jumps around. I get it completely. That inner child in me just gets it.
Can I hit you with a few standard questions?
What's
your writing process like? And just another question sort of linked. Does learning other people's music hinder your own songwriting? Or not only you, but anybody?
I'll try and deal with those one at a time. Okay? The first one, I don't really have a process as such, right? Yeah. Sometimes I might just think of something and think, oh, that'd be a good line for a song, okay? And it might get stored for a week, 5 years, who knows, right? Yeah, I just tend to just start messing around on the guitar. I'm not a lead guitarist at all, but I'm good at putting chord sequences together and just little licks off of the chords and that type of stuff, right? Yeah. Oh, okay, that fits, that sounds nice, and then I'll just whatever's sparking me off, I'll then start dropping the words over the top, and I tend to find when I get on a roll with it. It's usually when I'm in the mood to do it. It's like basically it has to be done in that moment. And quite often the majority of mine have taken, we talk about the basic shape of the song. It's probably only taken 20 minutes or whatever to do, And in my opinion, and in other people's opinions, I'm bigging my own stuff up here, but so they've said, oh, I like that one of yours, I like that one of yours, and so on. And they've nearly always been one of the ones that have literally just gone bang, dropped in, So do I have a process? No. What am I going to be influenced by? I mean, it's going to depend on what I'm listening to, because I'm always going through different phases. I mean, one of the songs I wrote recently, for example, I've been DJing as well. I mean, I'm banging the soul in my particularly northern soul. I'd quite happily admit this, Holland Dozier Holland should probably sue me for the chord sequence, right? I mean, it's... it bears a passing resemblance to, Heatwave by the wonderful Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. It also bears a passing resemblance to Wake Me Up Before You Go by Wham as well, which was just ripping up Motown anyway. But no, I don't have a process. It's just whatever's kind of influencing me.
No, the other question was, does learning other people's music hinder songwriting, in your opinion?
I think I might have not deliberately answered that yet. I'm going to throw one back at you here.
Okay.
Your project is called, about or how I learned to stop worrying about ripping off the 60s or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
You see, I've never worried about that. Unless it's been like, oh my God, that is exactly the same riff as Pretty Vacant or whatever. Yeah, I've never really worried about that. In fact, I've almost gone out of my way to do it. It's kind of, I'm listening to all this soul, right? So I'm just sort of saying, bang, 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 bang. Yeah. Okay, it sounds like Heatwave, but yeah, do you know what? If I run with this and just move the chords around a little bit, I can do it, And that's kind of the way that I've always done things.
A lot of it's to do with nerve. I mean, how did Led Zeppelin get away with not crediting all those people?
Yeah, that's a very, very good
Dazed and Confused is credited to Jimmy Page, and there's a guy a year earlier called Jake Holmes who did Being Dazed and Confused. It's exactly the same song.
I mean...
It seems like what you can get away with.
It is. I mean... Zepp were, as great musicians as they were very, very cheeky about this, should we say,